Hey subscribers, good to be back here in the tutorial mode here. Want to cover some things, one of which being this first video to explain compression and how I approach it and how I use it. Perfect. So I'm going to use this video, and this is going to be that. I'm going to show you how I use compression and what it is, what its purpose is. I got these drum stems here. They're actually the C-Rod Studio Kit drums from the drum library, and I actually use these on a record that is going to be released sometime soon. So, a gospel record, and so let's take a listen to what's going on. All right, cool. So pretty standard stuff, you know. These drums sound really good. I wanted to create a drum library that had a serious amount of realism. Compression. Look at compression like this. Imagine you have a suitcase or a box or a bag or anything like that, and you have to fill it with all your clothes. Now imagine you have one uh, piece of clothing that is huge, takes up a lot of room. So what you have to do in order to make room for the rest of the clothes to fit in the same suitcase, bag, or whatever the case may be, you have to push that piece of clothing down, smush it down so that you can fit other clothes around it. That's compression. That's compression. It is the act of controlling in audio production. It is the act of controlling a signal so that it makes room for other signals, while at the same time, going back to the clothes, if you push that piece of clothing down, as you push it down, sometimes it spreads out, the clothes spread out. And that's kind of what compression does with sound. As you compress it, sometimes it makes it fatter, but it makes room for other things to be put on top so that the lower volume dynamics of a signal can be heard louder. It can boost the lower dynamics while reducing the higher dynamics, the louder signals. Okay. Imagine taking a balloon that's round, squeezing it from top to bottom, the top being the loudest signal and the bottom being the softest signal. And as you compress it, you bring those signal volumes closer together so that the softer volumes are heard at louder and the louder volumes are heard softer. It's a way to control the sound. Okay, it's the way to control the sound so that um, it can fit in with the other tracks. And when I say fit in, you don't hear the fit until you hear all the other contract other until you hear all the other tracks that have compression on them. So a lot of times compression doesn't make as much of a difference until it's in the mix along with other tracks that are compressed. Then you hear the difference. But let's get into this. So I'm going to show you compression just using compression and EQ. Okay. I'm not gonna do a lot of over elaborate mixing with these drums. There are other videos that I have mixing drums, and that concept is pretty much the same. You have compression here. Let's put some uh, EQ on the kick drum. Let's solo this kick drum. Let's get this kick drum sounding good. Okay. Let's get some EQ on here. Um, yeah, we can just use the straight ahead Presonus Pro EQ. That has been my EQ of choice. All right. And this is what you have. Now I'm accentuating these highs. Now, if you don't know what a frequency is doing in your mix, over exaggerate it so you can hear it come out and you will be able to decide if that's what you want. All right. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but do you see this noise right here? We want that out of there. So we're going to put a high pass filter on this kick drum, and we're going to bring it down to about 30. Yes. That's where it was. 30 hertz. That's where that sound resided, that noise resided. I want that out of there. All right. Now let's get some low end boosted in here. Perfect. All right. Now let's get into the compression. Let's talk about compression. Compression. Let's talk about it. So in compression, you have the ratio, the threshold, the knee, the input gain, the output gain. You have the attack and the release. Now, let me explain each of these. Okay, so like I said, bringing back the balloon illustration, or the balloon or the close illustration or example, the ratio, if you can see this number, it says 2.0 to 1. The number on the left is how many dBs of compression you will apply to every number on the right. Okay, so this says 2 and 1 right here. So there will be 2 dBs of compression for every 1 dB of gain. Okay, so every 1 dB, there's 2 dBs of compression. Now, how does that work? I'll show you. Now, the threshold is the threshold, for those of you who know what a threshold is, the threshold is the point at which you want the compressor to kick in with the 2 dB of gain reduction to the 1 dB. Okay, so we have a 2-to-1 ratio. The drums are more hang around the 3 to 6 range. I like to do 3 point, let's do 4.5. That's cool. So with that, the threshold is the area or the line at which you want the compression to kick in. So the threshold it decides where you want it to kick in. So if I pull this all the way down, that means I want that threshold to kick in. As you can see, this line going down here. I want the threshold to kick in at the softest level. I want the compression kicking in at the softest level. And once I turn it all the way up, I want it to not kick in at all. Okay? So the knee, it controls how hard the compressor is hit. Okay? As you see, the knee is this curve here. We can make it super hard and rigid, so it hits that compressor super hard, or we can make it smooth. All right? So that the compression is a lot smoother. The input gain is, if that's the controls how much signal you want going into the compressor. So if your signal is too soft, you can turn up the input gain so it actually hits that compressor and it's hitting the mark that you need it to hit so that the compressor is kicked in. This is the output gain. You can actually boost the overall compressed signal out of here. Okay. The attack and the release. This is very important. Pay attention to this. The attack is how much of the original signal you want to allow to come through before the compressor kicks in. Okay. So if you want a stronger attack in your signal, you want your attack to go um, be up here anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds. You want your 20 minutes milliseconds because you want to allow that initial hit or transient of the signal to hit before the compressor kicks in. The release is how many milliseconds you want the compressor to hold that signal before it lets the compression go off of the track. Okay. So the attack controls how much you want to let in before the compressor grabs it, and the release is how long you want the compressor to hold on to it before it lets it go. All right. Now with drums, you typically want a slow attack, which means you'll get the attack of the drums, and you want a quick release. Okay. It means you want the compressor to let go of the signal rather quickly. Okay. The longer the release, the longer that compression is going to be held. And the problem is, let's say you hear me, I'm doing, there's a lot of, double bass and kick drum pickups in here. Well, if I turn the release up and the release is slow, the release is still compressing that signal. So the compressor can't let go to kick back in for the next hit because it's holding on. Okay, so a slow attack, fast release. All right. Anyway, let me play this without the compressor, and I'll play it with the compressor. Here we go. This is without the compressor. I'm getting ready to kick in the compressor right now. 1, 2, 3. Now, again, as you know, you don't hear a lot of difference. Okay. Here's the compressor without bypass. Now here's the compressor back in. Okay. Let's play this so we can get a good little loop. All right. So there that is. Now, if I want a stronger compression, or if I want more compression, you don't have to turn up the ratios. You just have to pull down the threshold. See, now it's hitting hard now. So without, now with. Yeah. See how it's hitting now? That's compression.